Hello, Seiiti Arata. If you're an employee with a professional career, sooner or later you will have to deal with difficult people in your office, in your work environment. There are people who think that everything revolves around them, people who believe that they are always the ones who have the better ideas, or just people who are plain nasty, and that's it. When you're dealing with difficult people, we have the tendency to think, what can I do to change this person? How can I explain that the behavior of this person is creating a really bad environment? And this is a wrong way of thinking. To deal with difficult people at work, first admit that you don't have the power to change other people. Your coworker's behavior is just out of your control. Do you know what you can change? Your own behavior, like the habit of labeling people as difficult to deal with, as obnoxious, self-centered. You can focus on yourself to better deal with the people in your work environment and then increase your happiness levels. It is not feasible to want to make your coworkers behave the way that you want them to. Sometimes when we meet a coworker, there is something that tells us that we are not going to like that person, even without knowing anything about them. It is just like our brain has been evolved to survive, and it looks for signals to label people as allies or threats. Now pay attention. When we classify a coworker as a difficult person, our brains will be thinking of ways to solve that potential threat. And one of the ways is that we want to change that person's behavior so they become an ally. Now consider this. For that person, maybe the threat is you. It is possible that you are the person that your coworker finds difficult to deal with. Now, the truth is that if you have problems with one or more of your coworkers, you are part of the problem. I'm not saying that you are the one to blame 100% for that bad relationship, but part of the problem comes from you. If you keep trying to change someone's behavior, it will just create an unproductive environment. Both sides will be unhappy at work. A competitive environment without collaboration will be able to cause damage on the long term to you and to the company. It is even possible that you or your colleague, both of you, will be fired and removed from that team. On the other hand, if you are part of the problem, you're also part of the solution. You can change perspective for the sake of your happiness. Stop wanting to change someone else's behavior and change your own behavior. The best way to deal with difficult people at work is to become someone who is easy to deal with, someone who's easy to get along with. Change your behavior even if you think that the other person is the one who's wrong. Now, when I suggest that you change your behavior to better deal with difficult people, now you might be asking yourself, whoa. If the other person is wrong, how come I am the one who has to change my behavior? Well, the most direct answer is because your behavior is the only thing in your control. You don't have the power to change the other. The deeper answer is that it is not about right or wrong. Just think about this. Seeing the world through your eyes, you will always be right, of course. The main objective here is to maintain a good working environment, to be more productive, to lead life with more lightness, more happiness. And what is the point of being right, but then being unhappy at work? You spend 8 or even more hours per day at work for many decades. If you're in this toxic environment all the time, it just will make a huge impact on your happiness. You're faced with a choice. You can choose to be right, prove your point, and keep trying to change the other person's behavior until something changes in the company. In the process, you have to deal with a bad environment, unhappiness at work, with consequences for your mental health, like stress, anxiety, and insomnia. Or you can choose a smarter option. You can give up external control and change your own behavior to make it easier for everyone. Use your intelligence to be an easier person to deal with at work. Let's just give an example of how focusing on your behavior can improve your work life. When you feel that a colleague is being nasty, don't use a negative adjective to immediately label that person. First, question why that behavior is affecting you. How might you react differently to that behavior? What can you do to prevent this from impacting your happiness at work? See that you're not trying to change the other person's behavior. You're not even trying to focus on the other person. You're questioning. Is focus about you, how you react to the behavior of others. And after reflecting on your own behavior, you can take a step further and communicate with your colleague and start with sincerity. You can say that you are looking to become an easier person to deal with. And then you can ask your colleague what they think. What can you do to improve the atmosphere at work? Your communication should be clear and assertive, but it is important that your communication is always focused on your own attitude. What can you change? Perhaps during this conversation, your colleague will also explain his or her behavior. If this happens, you can just let your colleague draw conclusions for themselves. Avoid giving advice or trying to force change, because this will just make your colleague defensive and be reinforcing elements that you find unpleasant. And if you start behaving in a different way, always looking to make things easier, it is quite possible that your coworkers will follow your example and also contribute to a better environment at work. Even if no one changes, you can be satisfied knowing that you are doing your best to bring more happiness to your work. Bring positive psychology into the workplace and then see how it becomes easier to deal with people. See, positive psychology is a specialty within psychology that seeks to achieve a more open and appreciative view of people's potentials, motivations, and capabilities. Positive psychology emphasizes this pursuit of happiness and a focus on solutions. You don't have to, and you shouldn't, advertise that you're bringing positive psychology to your work, nor do you need to announce that you're going to change your behavior. Words have less power than actions, so keep your focus on your actions. Instead of saying what you want to do, just do it. Your actions have greater power than your words. When you become an easygoing, solution-seeking coworker who favors a good work environment, it is possible that your actions will inspire your colleagues. In an indirect way, you can influence everyone to have a more collaborative attitude in the company. And even if no one changes their behavior, which is possible, you will still be at an advantage because you will have a positive, collaborative, well-meaning attitude. I know that this all might sound very idealistic, but try this in practice, and then draw your conclusions. You already know the result that you already have of being very competitive, of labeling people as people who are very difficult to deal with, of trying to change other people's behavior. You know what happened, right? So why not try a new approach, if only for a few weeks? Take the test. Over the next 4 weeks, change your attitude to a more positive approach, a more focused one, to solve problems rather than just being right. During these testing weeks, focus exclusively on changing your behavior, how you can be easier to deal with. If all goes well, you can come out of this experiment with an improved work environment, with less stress in your life, and most importantly, with a higher level of happiness. The best way to deal with difficult people at work is to make yourself an easier person to be around. Give up trying to change the behavior of others that you are finding to be difficult. Focus on the only thing that is within your control, your own behavior. It might seem unfair at first, especially if you want to prove that you are on the right side and everybody else is wrong. But remember that we're not talking about right or wrong. Our goal is to create a work environment that contributes to your own happiness. And if you want to know more about techniques of positive psychology to have a happier life in general, I want to invite you to a special class of our happiness course. You can access by going to arata.se/happiness.